Hello, everybody. WeeB'S here, and welcome back to the Otaku Overload Podcast, episode 43. We are back. I know last week I had said that maybe we would have to postpone the podcast a week, because I had something I had to do. But luckily, we found the time, and we were able to do this week's podcast. So that is exciting. And yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty fun podcast. There's a lot going on. And so I picked a couple of news stories that I think were pretty cool. And yeah, you guys will see what I mean in a moment. We'll dive in and we'll kind of explain some stuff that maybe we didn't talk about, but you guys will see what I mean in a moment. I tend to get a little ahead of myself. So that aside though, Legend of Jonathan is here. He's my co-host. How are you doing, Legend Jonathan?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I am doing pretty good. And yeah, I know that one of the first things I know you're going to talk about, but I kind of want to beat you to the punch, is that you just had a birthday recently. So I just wanted to say happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
And yeah, I know that you had a birthday. I know that you ended up doing like a stream on, the night of your birthday. You were talking about how you were happy that you had a good day and all that. So as you take it away with your week, how about you start there? Tell people about your stream and your birthday and maybe what you did, that sort of thing. I think that's a good place to start.
Okay, I'm about to start there, guys. So, yep, I had a birthday recently. I just turned 18. So,
ooh, nice. Very nice, very nice.
Mm-hmm. And so yeah, that was pretty great. I got some good gifts. Like I got some manga. I got some pretty nice clothes. I got
some hentai.
No, bruh. No.
So you said 18, so I wasn't hentai.
No. But yeah, I got some manga, I got some clothing. I was about to legit say hentai, actually. I literally was about to like switch over.
That would be funny if you just said it.
Yeah, like just casually, like, oh yeah. So, but no, yeah, I got some clothing too. I got some like funny little paintings. Because I have like a sister that she like paints, and I told her to paint that if she can paint me some stuff, and she said that maybe she would, and she did end up painting me some stuff, which was pretty cool.
Oh, nice. What did she paint?
So she drew and then painted under on top of it. She made Sonic and Tails, which was one of the portraits, and like a little tiny one, and then she made Uganda Knuckles, which was pretty funny.
Nice.
And then she made, I think it was 3. Oh yeah, 3. And then she made a Pikmin, like not 4, just a Pikmin one in general. She made a Pikmin like portrait.
Okay, but why'd you say 3?
Because it was like 3 portraits. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant maybe it was like something from Pikmin 3 is what you were getting at. I got you.
No, yeah, it's like 3 portraits.
Oh, nice. So when you say portraits, like, do you mean like it's like on like canvas or like?
Oh, I'm thinking of like canvas paintings, not like the ones where like they have like the frame on them. I mean like canvases.
Oh, okay, yeah, because that's what I was wondering. Because at first I thought maybe it was like digital or it was like, like a print or something. But then when you said like portraits, for some reason what it made me think of was like, yeah, like is it like on canvas or something? Because he also said she like drew it and then painted on top of it. So yeah, it is like little like little canvas paintings.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Nice.
Yeah.
That's really legit. That sounds really cool.
Yeah. And that was pretty cool. The Pikmin one was like a huge surprise because I guess it wasn't finished by the time I got the other 2. And so when I saw that 3rd one, I was like, wow, like it was such a surprise because it has like all the Pikmin on there, like literally every single one.
Nice.
And then it has 𝐿𝐤𝐤 and Olimar. And then it has like a Bulborb, and it's like looking at the Pikmin, it's gonna like eat them.
Nice.
Yeah, so I was like,
that's really cool. That sounds really legit. Like
cool.
Little like canvas paintings you can hang up somewhere or whatever of like different characters. That's pretty cool. That's pretty legit and it's pretty unique.
Yeah, I was like, that's super crazy. And I liked it. And then I got clothing. I got like a jacket, like a regular black dragon jacket. And then I got a blue Super Mario one, which was really cool because it had like the main guys on it.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the left shoulder, like the left arm, it has all of their faces on the left sleeve.
Oh, that's cool. I can
So
kind of imagine what you're saying. Yeah, sounds kind of
yeah,
cool.
it has like their little circle, like the circle frame, and it has like their faces in it. And then it's pretty cool. And then I got like a Blue Beetle shirt, which was pretty cool too.
Nice. That's pretty
hmm
cool.
And then I got manga. I got um the final two parts to the Kingdom Hearts 1 manga finally. So my whole Kingdom Hearts collection, like the first game, it's done.
Yeah, as we've talked about that, about having like different manga for like Kingdom Hearts and like some of the Zelda and stuff. So you have the I think for Kingdom Hearts it's like I mean it depends on what version of the print you have, but I think there's supposed to be like four, right? Like three or four.
Yeah, there's 4 volumes.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
So I got all 4 volumes, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, we've talked about it before. For anyone who doesn't know, that manga for Kingdom Hearts and for Zelda, they're really good.
They
Like
really
those are
are,
two
yeah.
series that like, not that the games aren't like good story-wise and stuff, but like the manga really takes the time to really expand on like the characters and stuff and
hmm
like little character moments, and they're really good.
It really is, yeah. They
Like
expand a lot.
I really like the Kingdom Hearts ones. Like it really lets you like kind of see the characters interacting and stuff. They're really fun.
hmm
And the Zelda ones I like a lot too. Like I really like the Twilight Princess one. The Twilight
Especially the
Princess one's
twi
really good. All the attractions with like him and Midna, like
hmm
they really expand on it. It's like really good. I really like those manga.
Yeah, man.
That's cool.
I
Nice.
have the Twilight Princess one. I agree. Yeah, I like that one the most.
Nice.
And so yeah, that was like the presents, they were pretty cool, and I ate some cake and I went out with my family to dinner and that was pretty cool.
Nice.
Um, and then I did my stream and I actually had a guest on my stream. I had a friend of mine and we were just playing some Fall Guys and we were just talking about like random stuff. We talked about SpongeBob at one point. We talked about like me turning 18 and we were talking about that.
Nice.
And then yeah, we were just talking about random stuff, it was pretty cool. And like, I would recommend you guys go check out the stream because yeah, it was really fun. And then we were laughing and a bunch of other stuff. And then
Just having a
like,
good time.
yeah, and then I mentioned a joke because my friend's like, he's like, now that you're like 18, Jonathan, how do you like feel? Do you feel like old? And I'm like, dude, I'm like, I feel like I have to pay off a mortgage now. That I
Oh
need to like,
God.
I have to like pay off like I have kids, I have like a wife, I have like,
Oh
I just
God.
started going off on a list, and we started
Jeez.
laughing about that, and it was a fun stream, um, and yeah, it was pretty cool. I enjoyed my birthday a lot. I thought it was pretty cool,
That's good. That's good that you enjoyed it. Got some good stuff. You even did like a stream on it for your channel and stuff. I mean, congratulations. Sounds like you had a good time. So that's really cool. And like once again, happy belated birthday. And hopefully, people hearing this, they wish you a happy birthday as well. It'd be cool.
Yeah, thank you very much,
Yeah.
um.
What else did you do? Was that it for your week or was there some other
No,
stuff?
there's some more. So, I remember I mentioned this, like, I think this was months ago, actually. But the thing is, I never got around to it because of like school. Then other games came out, a bunch of other stuff like that, and anime. I actually got around to this finally, and I also downloaded something else as well because it's like more recent. I downloaded the last two. I think there's gonna be more, but so far this is the last two. I downloaded the newest DLCs of Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. I don't want to talk about one of them right now.
Yeah.
I got to play the Bardock one, which is called Bardock. Um, crap, I forget what its name is, but it's something about like,
Bardock is what matters.
yeah, that's the point. Yeah, something about fate. That's all I know too. And it's pretty cool. I like it because obviously it's based off the episode of Bardock, which I feel like everyone that's seen Dragon Ball Z has most likely seen that special, that TV special, And it's almost the exact same thing as the original, where it's about Bardock. He goes to that one planet, he kills the people, they give him they curse him so that he can see the future. The crap happens where he warns them, they don't listen, the Saiyans don't listen, he gets killed. Everyone loves that.
Mhm.
Um, But what I think is unique is that obviously since this is supposed to be kind of like a more like Toriyama's kind of involved more, what's cool is that he's letting us see both Dragon Ball Z Bardock and Super Bardock in a sense. So
Huh.
like you know how Dragon Ball Z Bardock he's depicted as being like a typical Saiyan where it's like, oh, I'm like really cocky, I'm really violent, I don't care about my son, I don't
Yeah,
even
yeah, yeah.
know, all that stuff. Here it's shown that like with like his colleagues and everyone, he's not very like he has a soft side. Like he has a more softer side. And like literally there's like a dude where like I think there's like a side quest I did where like I had a feeling this side quest was gonna actually happen for some reason. I don't know why. But you help Fasha, which is that girl saying that's always with him, like on the missions and everything,
Oh
that
yeah,
she
I know what you're talking
yeah,
about. Yeah, she was a part of the team. Yeah,
that she has a stalker. And
yeah.
basically when you go to the bar, she mentions how there's this dude that's staring at her a lot. And Bardock's gonna go, he says he's gonna go over there and he's gonna threaten him, he's gonna beat his ass, all that stuff, And basically the dude says, no, I'm in love with her, and like, I don't know how she was gonna like pay attention to me and all that good stuff, whatever. And so he says that he wants Bardock to fight him so he can get stronger. And Bardock, he says that originally he's like, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to beat your ass and get it over with or whatever. But he's like, no, because I hear that she like likes tough guys. So like, blah, blah, blah. He's like, okay, fine. I'll do it for you. And so you can kind of see that there's that side where instead of him being kind of like, no, like F you type of thing, he does kind of like, that like emotional side kind of gets to him where, what, I feel bad for this dude. He's being kind of a little, I'm gonna like help him. And then later, the dude gets his ass beat, and he's like, "Thank you, but like, I need you to beat me up more because I need like a Zenkai boost." And he's like, "Dude, I don't want to like keep beating you up, but like, if you tell me to beat you up, I'm gonna do it anyways, I guess." And like, you can tell he doesn't want to do it anymore. And then he even feels bad because he goes and tells Fasha about it, and then Fasha shows that she's more soft too, where she's kind of like, who said that I don't like, how do I call it? Who says I don't like softer guys too? You know what I mean? And so he's like, yeah, but like we're Saiyans though. We're supposed to be like really tough. And she's like, well, that's what we say we are, but the thing is we're not. And she's like, if anything, I
Huh.
like the fact that like the guy's gonna be more how do I say he's gonna be more like willing to like fight for me in a sense. And so she's like, I like guys that just try to act tough. Like they're not like actually tough. And so that's when Bardock kind of thinks about it. He's like, you know what? That makes me think a lot about like how us Saiyans are, or something like that. He even says it out loud. Like he even, and then there's even a part where like one of his colleagues pays for like I guess their beer tab, and like he kind of questions it too, why like the dude's like actually being nice for once when like Saiyans aren't. And so you can kind of see that there's like this like thing where like you notice that instead of it being like the typical like, oh, I'm Bardock, I'm gonna go kill people, he kind of is like questioning more things than like what we saw in like the episode. You know what I mean?
Mhm. So what you're
And,
saying is that you think it's interesting because he's not, because I guess some of these characters, like same thing kind of happened with like Broly, that when they first came out in Z, they were a bit more like one-dimensional, I guess. They were
mhm.
kind of just like, and you think it's kind of cool here. You kind of see more about them, more of their backstory, more characterization, personality, that sort of thing. Is kind of what you're getting at.
That they add more to the characters and they like expand on like something we already are familiar with.
That's cool. All right.
hmm
And so that's basically, I'm guessing, kind of like the rest of the Kakarot game. It's basically just playing through the events of like the movies or like the different anime episodes, I'm guessing, but just like with a little bit more fleshed out so that you can do like side quests and
hmm
stuff. All
Yeah,
right,
and
well, that's
then
pretty cool. And so you said
hmm
you had a good experience with it.
hmm
That's cool. And is that the last DLC that came out, or has there been more since then?
Oh no, that's what I was saying that there's a newest one that I haven't talked about because I haven't played it yet. There's the 23rd martial arts tournament. That
Oh,
one just came
okay.
out recently.
And is that the last one, or is there still supposed to be more?
That's what I'm saying. I think as of currently, it's the last of like a second batch of DLC, but I think they're gonna make like one last batch next or something like that. Like they're gonna make a third how do you call it, like a third thing, like kind of like Smash
Yeah,
Bros.
the only reason I ask is like, I feel like this game has been like getting content for like a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was kind of like wondering if like, is that all if for the DLC? Is it finally done? But if you say it's not, that is really interesting because it's like, I wonder what more they're gonna add. And I wonder when. Like, I wonder how long they're gonna support this game because it does feel like it's been like getting updates for a while. You like, just mentioned it before I kind of you know, said my thought. But yeah, it's kind of like, Smash Bros. Where it came out and then like for years it was getting like, DLC over time. That's what it kind of feels like
Mm-hmm.
for this too. So that's kind of
Yeah,
funny.
and that's the cool thing too, because I've seen with the newest one that yeah, they expand a lot more. Which I mean, if they already did it with the last few DLCs, they're obviously going to do it with the newest one. But yeah, like I've seen that like with these DLCs, they're like really showing like so many different like how do you call it, like different obviously like the different like what ifs you can say it when they put it into like the side quest. And I think it's cool how they always like show that like this is stuff that they kind of are adding to kind of expand on like original stuff. And
Nice.
yeah, I'm excited to play that one. And I also know that yeah, Bardock also has like a Vegeta story or something like that, which is
Oh,
pretty
does it?
cool. Yeah,
Nice.
Kid Vegeta story.
Yeah, I was gonna say that would have to make sense, right? Because like Vegeta was
Hmm.
a kid when all of the Bardock stuff went down.
Hmm.
Interesting.
And so yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to the Dragon Ball Z Kakarot.
So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I can understand. There's not really much to like explain of it because it's kind of like, it's the same plot as like the like I said, the anime and like the movies and stuff, but it's kind of cool that you explain that there's all this like characterization stuff, which is fun, and it's kind of cool that you're explaining that, yeah, there's still more DLC, so
Hmm.
that's cool. All right. Sounds good. Sounds good.
And that's not the only thing I did because this is the next part. I watched finally after like a few like not even a few months actually. Come on, that's exaggeration. After a few weeks, I finally watched the end of Evangelion.
Nice. All right. And what did you think of it?
Oh my God, bro. I loved it.
Oh yeah?
I liked it. I liked it a lot. It was crazy, but I liked it a lot. You know what I mean? Like,
Nice. All
hmm.
right, that's good. That's good. Um, I don't really know how we could talk about it because,
Yeah.
hmm, yeah, I don't even remember how in depth we went with the original Evangelion. Because I know we had also said that once we like, okay, now you did this, now I need to catch up and watch the rebuilds or whatever. That
Hmm.
way, when you watch it, I'll have watched it for the first time. We can give our thoughts. Um, I guess places to like some things to cover, I guess. I guess number one, what did you think of I don't know, I guess like the story. Did you think that was interesting, I guess? The continuation of the story, they added more to like the Evangelion lore, I guess, and all that. Did you think it was good?
I actually thought it was pretty good.
All right, pretty good, pretty good.
Hmm.
And then I guess, how do you feel this ending compares to the original, anime ending, I guess?
Um, Honestly, I will agree, I do prefer this ending more compared to the original. I feel like the original, yeah, it was kind of rushed, you know what I mean, in a sense. I like that this one, it's giving off like that same message that we talked about in the original,
Mm-hmm.
but I like how they expanded upon it here, and it kind of like, it feels like a pretty happy, well, I mean, it's not exactly happy either, but you know what I mean? It
Yeah,
feels
yeah,
more
because
like,
I would say it's not that much of a spoiler since we already, I think, did talk a bit about like the original Ava,
mm-hmm,
but basically the whole point of Evangelion, or a big part of it at least, is the hedgehog dilemma.
mm-hmm,
That, it comes from the idea that, hedgehogs, oh, they want to be near other hedgehogs. They don't want to be alone. But if they get too close to another hedgehog because of their,
mm-hmm,
spines, they'll hurt whoever they try
like,
to get close
mm-hmm,
to. And basically, that's like a metaphor that for people, people don't want to be alone. They don't want to be in solitude, but there's that risk that when you get too close to somebody,
You
either
can get
you'll
hurt.
hurt them or they'll hurt you. And so, like, how do you deal with that? And that's like a big part of Evangelion, that there's all these characters, and we see that everybody in the series is really screwed up, where a lot of them are living with like their flaws and like loneliness and all this like bullshit. And basically they're always like afraid to like let people in, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, once again, I don't really think it's a spoiler. I think we did mention it with the original Ava, but in this movie, even though the events are a bit different, it still basically leads to like the whole, human instrumentality and all that. And basically, the whole thing about all souls being, melted down into a primordial soup, or like everything is one or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's the part where I kind of maybe won't say the rest of it to not spoil it. But basically, once that happens, this kind of goes in a different direction compared to like the ending of the anime, and it kind of shows like a different path to it, and there's like a different ending this time around. And like you said, it kind of expands more on that theme and stuff. And I know it's kind of something I brought up when you first said you were going to start watching Eva, and I said that I'm not sure what happens in like the rebuild ending. What I've heard is that you can think of it almost like a video game ending, where like the original Ava, that ending was like the normal ending, right? It's just like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
it ends this way. And okay, like that's an ending, I guess, but it's not really good. It's not really that much of a conclusion. It's kind of whatever. And then, an End of Evangelion, that's kind of like, you can almost say like the good ending, because it expands on that idea. And like you said, it kind of has, more of like a, I would say, however you interpret it, it has kind of like more of a positive note. There's
Mm-hmm.
maybe like a bit more, hope for humanity, I guess, in the characters. And then Rebuild is the one where I hear that's supposed to be like the true ending,
Mm-hmm.
where like, oh, it's supposed to expand on it even more, and it leads like in suppose like an even better direction, I guess. So yeah, I mean, did you kind of feel that? Did you feel like, yeah, this ending definitely expands on it? It definitely feels like a bit more of like a positive one compared to the other one.
That's what I was gonna say, honestly, that I feel like this one's more positive. That the other one is not that like because you know how like the original one, the one where they just kind of clap and tell them like and all
Hey,
that.
congratulations and all that, because I
Mm-hmm.
guess he kind of learns to like deal with his own
And love
feelings or
himself.
whatever, and
Yeah,
kind of love himself, I guess. Yeah, sort of. And
but like,
here it
mm-hmm.
takes that idea a little bit farther, and it shows Shinji, I guess, accepting the world a bit more, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
That's all I was gonna say because I feel like that one's nice and that's cool. And I think like if someone did that to me, obviously, yeah, I would be like, thanks, But like I like how here it's like it's obvious like the whole like him, the stuff. It's like it's literally like it's like obviously metaphorical in a sense, but it's like him breaking through like yeah, like the barrier and learning to actually accept the fact that like, to like want to live life, the way he wants to do it, and have hope and like, all that other stuff. And
Yeah, there
like
we go. Yeah.
that's what I was gonna say, like that, like, and the first one doesn't really show that, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, congratulations, dude. And that's it. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
mm-hmm,
And yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what the rebuilds do. I hear they go in a totally different direction.
mm-hmm,
They take the lore to like an even like, higher level, and they're supposed to like do some really crazy stuff. That's what's called the rebuilds, because basically they're kind of almost like a weird remake, reimagining while still being a sequel at the same time or something like that. But yeah, we'll have to see when we watch those. That way we can talk about them. And when we do, maybe we'll dedicate like a whole episode of just Ava and kind of explain, okay, here's the point of Ava. Here's how what the original anime covers. Here's how that ends. Here's
mm-hmm,
where, the movie goes. Here's where that ends. And here's where the rebuilds go. And here's how those end. And then what do we think? And, all that good stuff. So.
mm-hmm,
But yeah, I'm glad you finally watched it. I always recommend Evangelion. I think it's very interesting, very out there, very thought provoking, a lot of, abstractness, which is like really crazy and
mm-hmm.
creative. A lot of like symbolism that's used in a crazy way. Um, I don't know. It's just like a very interesting series that I don't know. This dude had this idea for like, hey, let's make a mecha anime, but it goes in a very different direction. It's not just like all. I mean, because they've always had messages here about like anti-war, war being bad, or capitalism, stuff like that. But this one definitely took it in an even like crazier direction.
It did,
being all
yeah.
like philosophical and I don't know, psychological and stuff. So pretty interesting stuff. Nice. So yeah, I'm glad that you're slowly getting deeper into the series. And like I said, now it's my turn too. That when you watch the rebuilds, I need to also watch them. That way, that's what I haven't really dove into yet. But they finally like released the last movie not too long ago, I think, like the English version. So like now's a good time to like, all right, finish off the series.
Yeah.
Nice. And is that it for your week?
Yeah, that's pretty much it for my week. Yeah.
All right, pretty cool, pretty cool. Jumping over to my week then. This is what I was kind of saying. I was getting a little ahead of myself because I was gonna like start talking about it, but I'm like, no, I'll just kind of wait till it's my turn. But what I was trying to say is that I didn't do too much because number one, I had said before, I even thought I might have to cancel the podcast or postpone it because I'm gonna be busy with some stuff and going out of town, blah blah blah. So that kept me a bit busy. And then number two. A big part of the week was just trying to catch up on those anime that I've brought up before because all of them are almost done, which means that, maybe next week or the week after, I'm going to do like the big ol', anime roundup where I talk about my thoughts and how they went, all that good stuff. So that took a big part of the week. But when it comes to like some newer stuff, though, I did do a couple things. The first one is that I finally finished a manga that had been going on for a while. And I think the Japanese version had ended like a while too, like during the time of the pandemic or something, I think. Somewhere around there, I'm not too sure. But it finally got like translated in English in the app I use. And I'm, of course, talking about this manga called It's Tough Being Neetko, because the girl's name is like Neetko. Her name, if you look at it, like if you look at like the page, it's a Nemoko Nito. But I guess it's trying to be like a play on words, so they call her like Neetko because she's like a neat, and it kind of sounds like her name. That's like the whole joke, I guess. And yeah, it's basically this really interesting. I don't know, maybe I've talked about at some point on the channel. I don't remember, but it was this really interesting, almost very real feeling manga. It's supposed to be like a comedy. But honestly, half the time it feels kind of like depressing and like very real. Where basically there's this 23-year-old girl. Her name is, like I said, Nemoko Nito. And they call her Neetko because they're trying to make fun of her for being neat. And basically she like tried to have a job at one point. Ah, man, I just finished it. But it's been so long since it kind of went over her backstory, I forget. I probably should have brushed up. I'm so sorry. But the point is, like, at some point, either like she did work or she was trying to like, yeah, I think the point is that she graduated, and then I think she was trying to get like a job or whatever. But then it went really bad. And it was really traumatic, with like a lot of like harassment from like the interviewers or like harassment from her past employment or something. I don't remember too good. But the point is, she had trauma with like job stuff in the past. Is the point? At one point she was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna like graduate. I'm gonna like get out there, and I'm gonna get a good job, and I'm gonna enter the workforce, all that good stuff, right?"
Yeah.
But then like she had all these experiences where stuff just kept going really bad, and there was like harassment and stuff involved, and so it kind of traumatized her, and she became a NEET. And NEET means not in employment. Extracurriculars or training. So basically it means someone who's not, working or, schooling or, anything. Like they're just at home, just kind of being, lazy, you can say, like kind of just mooching off like their family. And so she becomes a NEET. And basically at the start of the thing, she's unemployed, she's a NEET, she's filled with anxiety because of like the stuff that happened to her in the past. And not only does she feel like embarrassed around like all of her like college friends or whatever, that they all have jobs and they're moving on with life. And she feels embarrassed with like her family because she could tell that her like mom's like kind of judgmental and stuff. So she's dealing with that. And as I'm saying, there's parts of it where it's supposed to be funny and it kind of is. there's parts where it's kind of very real. You know, I mean, if you've ever had trouble with maybe getting into like a job because you kind of graduated and you feel like maybe your degree didn't really help out much, or you've tried to like get a job for a while and you've had like tough experience with that, or that you feel like you're always getting shot down. It's really relatable. You know what I mean? And then like the anxiety part and stuff too is like really sad.
Yeah.
And long story short, like I said, it's a mix of funny, it's a mix of realness, and it's basically the story of Neetko and kind of her backstory and her trying to get out of her slump and over her anxiety, and there's friends helping her along the way, and her family kind of tries to support her, and kind of about her trying to come out of her shell and stuff. And yeah, it just ended, but it was really short. It ended up being only like 41 chapters. So it was pretty short. Yeah, even though it lasted a few years, it ended up being pretty short. I think it only came out monthly. That's why it like took so long. And I'll just say now, it was fine. It wasn't like the best manga in the world. I just think it was good because, like I said, there was like a lot of realness to it. It covered a lot of stuff that people could relate to. Is I think what I made it like pretty good. But in the end, the fact that it was like kind of short, and the fact that it doesn't have like a very solid conclusion, I would say brings it down. Like in the end, it just ends with her kind of like getting over her fears slowly. And so she's like doing like a lot of interviews at the end, and she's like more hopeful about her future. That's kind of how it ends right there. So she doesn't even like really get a job, which kind of sucks.
Damn.
And that's kind of it. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then I kind of didn't like really like how her mom treated her. Her mom was like really judgmental and like, really like, like her daughter has like anxiety and a bunch of stuff. And she was kind of like, she could be kind of a dick about how she treated her sometimes too. Like the way she would push her and stuff, which is kind of like a little bit mean and stuff. So I don't know. I think overall, out of like a 10, I'd give it like a 7, maybe like a 6.5. Like it was interestingly enough, but the fact that it like took so long for the whole story to come out, the fact that it was so short and didn't really have like a satisfying conclusion, I would say brought it down. But I still think that it was fine. And like I said, it had a lot of realness to it that I thought made it like relatable. Like that part made it pretty good. But yeah, I would just say like the fact that it took so long to come out and like the lack of like a good conclusion, it's what brings it down for me,
Damn.
So not the best, but still pretty good. And I still think it's like worth a read. If you would ask me, I would say I'd still recommend it, but it's not something to like write home about. It's just like, yeah, it's fine,
Nice.
But yeah, at least it's over now. At least it's not, at least I know how it ends. But it's one of those things where, yeah, I was kind of hoping for more. I feel like the ending was just really abrupt, So it's kind of like, oh, it's over, I guess. That's cool,
Yeah, that sounds kind of awkward. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's kind of what brought it down a bit for me. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, it just ended out of nowhere, and it didn't have a satisfying conclusion, and But yeah, I would still recommend it, but it's just kind of like a low recommendation. So.
All right.
Yeah, and then the other thing I did is that there was an anime that kind of started coming out, and I had mentioned it in a couple other podcasts that there was like trailers and stuff for it that was coming soon. So I am, of course, talking about that I watched the first episode of Fully Coolly Grunge. And it's really interesting because I actually just found out that there's only going to be 3 episodes for this season, so that's really short. There's always like 6. There's only going to be 3. I guess it's kind of a good thing I didn't watch the second episode. That way, next week I can talk about the endings, and it's only going to be 3 episodes. So I watched the first episode, didn't watch the second episode yet, and then next week I guess I can just wrap it up,
Yeah.
But the first episode is out, and it looks like each episode is going to focus on one of the 3 main characters. Basically, the 3 main characters, based on what we saw like in the trailer, is there's one kid that he works in a sushi shop, and I believe his name is Shinpachi, because like I said, I think the title of each episode has to do with their name. I'm pretty sure that was his name. I'm like 90% sure. So the first episode focuses on Shinpachi, and basically, yeah, he's this kid that works in a sushi shop, and basically the episode is all about how it takes place on Earth, and it seems like it's supposed to be like farther into the future than other, Fully Coolly series, other seasons. And basically on Earth, it's kind of a dump. And it seems like everyone's kind of trying to get off the planet. Like there's a
Yeah.
part where like the main character, he looks up into the sky and there's like this rocket flying overhead. And he kind of does a little narration thing about how a lot of people, they buy tickets so they can get on the rocket to get off planet because like Earth's kind of a dump. And then there's another
Yeah.
part where he's showing that at school, he says that all the adults have given up, and it shows like this classroom that's empty. It's just him and the other two main characters that I'll kind of go over in a moment. And he just says that yeah, all the teachers gave up, so like they don't really even like, really have like an education, like a future, which is really sad. So like in this version of like Fully Coolly this season, Earth is a dump. A lot of it's kind of dystopian. Everyone's just getting off planet. There's a lot of yakuza everywhere. There's gang wars, that sort of thing. A lot of corruption. And basically, this main character, it's about how, yeah, he works at the sushi shop and he interacts with his other two friends. That one of them is a Rockian, which is like a rock human, because apparently that exists on Earth now. He kind of looks like the Thing from, the Fantastic Four. And there's this girl with dyed hair that she makes katanas. And those are his two friends. He interacts with them. And basically it's about him, working, and he's always fishing so he can, have fish for like the sushi shop. He's interacting with his friends, and his life seems to be pretty normal, pretty boring. Like I said, there's not really any like future or anything. And where stuff kind of gets shaken up is that when the mayor comes in to the shop and his, I believe, dad, he calls him old man. I think it's his dad. When his dad is serving sushi and, drinks and whatever to the mayor, by the way, he looks like he's a really little short guy. Kind of makes me think of a little bit of like Powerpuff Girls. He's like a really little short guy. He's basically bald and he's like super horny.
Also, yeah, exactly. The one from
the mayor
Girls,
from
yeah.
Powerpuff Girls. And lo and behold, the mayor's little plaything, his little mistress or whatever, is actually Hanako from the other seasons. And she's dressed, of course, like more like traditional Japanese or whatever. And apparently she, I guess, works at like a what do you call those what do you call those clubs that like the girls work at?
Nightclub?
Huh?
Nightclub?
No, but in Japan, what do you call the ones that are over there? The ones that are really famous where the guys go for like,
Oh, damn.
what are those called? I can't remember right now. But the point is, she works at one of those clubs, right? And I think that's where she met the mayor. That's the implication. And the point is, this kid's life gets turned upside down when the mayor shows up. Haruko's there, and Haruko's being, her crazy self. She's trying to seduce the mayor. Something's up. You don't know why. She starts trying to seduce the main character, as she does in other seasons, because he's able to, summon some sort of a crazy thing out of his forehead. And yeah, it's just like, okay, she has a plan, she's trying to manipulate things, but the first episode doesn't really tell you why. That's the interesting part.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, so she's trying to manipulate the mayor for some reason. She's trying to manipulate the main character to see if, she can make the thing come out of his forehead. And basically, when this like robot that looks like 𝐿𝐴 shows up, except that it's red, and he's apparently like the president or like some sort of executive of what do you call it, Medical Mechanica, the place that's always like a big old iron in each season where they keep all of like the robots and stuff. She like feeds them like a piece of sushi that's actually USB, and it like gives them a virus, and she uses it to like hack into Medical Mechanica. And when stuff starts to go down, you can tell like the big old iron starts laying off steam and alarms are going off, all sorts of stuff. She also causes like a Yakuza gang war, I guess, to like cause trouble. And then that's where, we see that the rock guy shows up and he's there to avenge his brother. That something happened to him. And so he teams up with the main character. And then Haruka, she runs off in her, Vespa towards Medical Mechanica. And so they're like chasing after her to help her, supposedly. And so lots going on, but we don't really know why yet. But I still thought it was interesting. Even though it was kind of all over the place and we don't really know what's happening yet. I guess the point I'm trying to make is I liked it. I thought it felt zany. I thought it felt goofy. I thought it felt interesting where I want to know more. And yeah, as always, as I kind of said when I first said that was going to be this season, a lot of people hate on Fully Cooley, and they're like, I don't get what the point of it is. It should have ended with like the first season, blah blah blah. I haven't minded these other seasons. I think it's been interesting to see different things that are going on Earth, seeing what the state of Earth is and what else is happening on it. And I've always thought it's just really interesting to see what other schemes and shenanigans, Haruka's up to. And that's what's happening here. So I've enjoyed it so far. And I don't mind it. Like I said, I'm interested. I want to know more. And I really am interested in how they'll tie it up in 3 episodes, since it's only going to be 3 episodes and they're each like 20 minutes. So what is the story they're trying to tell? What is Haruka up to? How will the other characters, tie into this? And I don't know. I think it's been fine so far. I thought it was interesting. And even though it did have like a different art style this time, it looks very, very different. I don't mind the art style. I think it's kind of cool. And I think that, if each season does something different with like the art style and stuff too, like, I don't see the reason to be mad at that. I think it's kind of interesting. Like, okay, each season is trying to do something different. They're telling a different story. This one even has a different art style. I don't mind it. Once again, I don't know if I'm just too forgiving or I'm just too easy to please, but I don't mind it. And I am enjoying it so far. And like I said, I'm interested to see where the story goes and what these next 2 episodes, how they tie everything together and how it focuses on the other characters, because that's what's promising. So yeah, I don't know. I recommend it so far. I think it's interesting. And yeah, like I said, I hope to come back next week with the last 2 episodes to give my thoughts on what happens,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wish I could say more, but like I said, it's just very like, we don't really know what's happening. We don't know like what Haruka's planning or anything, or like what the little story is that they're trying to tell this season. But I think it's good. I've enjoyed it so far. And yeah, hopefully, like I said, I'm able to watch the 2 episodes so that next week I can come back and say, here's my overall thoughts. And this is what was happening, hopefully,
Hopefully.
Yeah. And I believe that was it for my week. I think that's all I had written down. I'm checking real quick. Yeah, that's it for me. That's it for my week. Like I said, most of it was just catching up on anime and, that sort of thing. So hopefully next week I can do anime roundup, or if not next week, the week after. So, there you go. Alrighty, so with that being said, with our weeks out of the way, there is some news stories to talk about. Honestly, I only picked 3, not because there is not anything going on, but it's just that they're at the same time, there's so much going on. Like, I know the Tokyo Game Show happened, and I know there's all sorts of news in the industry, and there was leaks from Xbox, and there's stuff happening with Unity, and like all sorts of stuff. But some of them I just feel are like really complex stories that are kind of ongoing. That's why I'm not really reporting on them. And then other stuff is kind of just like, updates to stuff we had already heard about. That's why I'm kind of not covering it either. But trust me, there's a lot going on. Like, if you guys are wondering what I'm talking about with the whole Unity thing, I would say go check out like people that are in the industry and know how to like discuss that, because like that's a whole thing that's happening right now. And the Tokyo Game Show, there's all sorts of updates. I would say go check that out. But yeah, there's a lot happening. But the 3 stories that I want to talk about that I thought they were pretty fun, and I think they might be relevant to our audience. The first one, as the title of the article states, Sonic Superstars Trio of Trouble animated short. So that one caught my attention. That's one that I think that our audience would enjoy. And that's one that I think is a little easy news story to cover. But basically, we talked about it before that there's going to be a new game coming out soon called Sonic Superstars. And it looks really fun. From everything we've seen, it's going to be like a 4-player, you can play it co-op, or you can play as Sonic and Tails and Knuckles and Amy, and everyone's going to have like their own different moves, and you can play all together. And it looks really fun, right? And that's supposed to come out pretty soon. It's supposed to come out in about a month, October 17. And I just thought it was really fun that they released like this little short that it focuses on Fang, which he's a previous character. Do you know what animal Fang's supposed to be, by the way?
Crap. I forgot. I think he used to be a weasel or
Yeah, it's hard to tell honestly sometimes, right? Because of how they're stylized, you know. But the point is, Fang has shown up before. He's the guy that has like the little boots and the hat, and he kind of rides around in a little like hovered bike, I guess you could almost call it, right? Like a little,
hmm
yeah. So you might have seen it before. He's come out and stuff before.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
point is, it focuses on Fang, Dr. Eggman, and a new character called Trip
yeah.
that I don't really know what sort of animal Trip is supposed to be, but it looks like it's some sort of maybe a raccoon or something that seems to be wearing some sort of like a little costume. You know what I
hmm
mean? Like you can't see what the animal is underneath, but you can tell, like you can see like a little tail sticking out and stuff, little arms and stuff. And basically it's just this little short that I guess is kind of setting up, what the game's gonna be about. That, it's kind of introducing here's gonna be the antagonist and here's what the next scheme is or whatever. And it basically just shows Fang, Trip, and Dr. Eggman that they're kind of like underground and they come across some sort of like a cave, like it's like this cave with like symbols drawn on it. Like I wouldn't call them hieroglyphics, but some sort of like ancient stuff like on the wall. And basically it shows that Trip. Sorry, Fang. It starts that he has this dream where he's fighting the our four heroes, and then they beat him up, and that's what wakes him up, and he's all freaked out. And then as they're traveling around, a giant serpent shows up. So he defeats it with some help from Trip. And then basically the whole time, Eggman is looking at like the cave drawings or whatever. He's trying to interpret them. And then at the end, when like Fang is standing all triumphant with the serpent, and Fang is standing over the serpent all triumphant, and Trip is kind of like touching it. Like they're trying to like, I don't know what they're doing, like connect to it somehow or whatever. Eggman's eyes start to glow and it shows what looks like it might be like the Phantom Ruby or something in his
Like a
reflection of his.
gem. hmm
Yeah, it looks like that it's something like that. I'm not really too sure, but it has to do with what he's seeing that Trip is doing.
hmm
And it has to do with like the cave paintings. And it looks like that's going to lead into whatever the big problem is in the game.
hmm
So yeah, you can't really tell what's happening. It's kind of mysterious, but it's just supposed to kind of set all that stuff up. It's supposed to like introduce us to our three main antagonists, I guess. And yeah, same as like the little animations we've got in like for Sonic Mania and like that sort of thing. It's just really good art. Really good art, really nice fluid animation. And it's kind of fun to get little cutscenes like this that go with this, kind of like what you would call like the retro style of Sonic. It's just really
Yeah.
good stuff. And so I just thought it was a really fun little animation. And it just makes me even more excited for the game because I think the game already looks pretty good. And when thinking of like Sonic Mania, how fun that was, and the fact that it's like 4 playable characters this time. And I don't know, it just looks really good. And I think it's kind of cool that they're introducing Fang and Trip as like working with Eggman. I just think that's like a
hmm
fun dynamic. So I just thought that
Yeah,
was like a
yeah,
fun little thing they put out. So I would say, check it out. Link will be in the description below. It'll show the little animated short, both in English and Japanese. Which is kind of funny because it's not like there's any like dialogue anyway.
yeah,
But it is what
yeah.
it is. And yeah, I'm just excited and I'm looking forward to the game. And I'm just hoping that, like I said, hopefully people in our audience, they're looking forward to it and they'll check it out as well. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Then the next news story, this one was pretty cool. It's something that we've touched upon before, but we finally like got confirmation of it finally, as well as like a really weird announcement trailer. But as the title of the article says, it says Swery 65 and Suda 51 announce 2.5D slasher film parodic action game Hotel Barcelona for PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. So basically, we had said before, I know we covered the story at one point, that Suda 51, known for making, stuff like No More Heroes, as well as, helping be like the producer of stuff like, Lollipop Chainsaw and, Killer is Dead and all sorts of stuff like that. Basically, He's teaming up with Swery65, the guy who made oh my god, what's the name of the game? I'm totally blanking right now. I'm so embarrassed. I've mentioned this game 1,000 times. He's the guy who made Deadly Premonition 1 and 2, as well as The Missing and what's the game that he made recently? The Good Life. So he's made like a few like indie titles here and there, pretty quirky stuff. So basically two very what they call, they're these artists that are very out there, very quirky. Like they definitely have like their own style, and they're teaming up to make a game. And we had heard before that it's supposed to be called Hotel Barcelona, but we didn't know when it's coming. We didn't know what it was about, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And they finally announced and put out a trailer that it's going to be this 2.5D slasher. That in the footage, I don't really know what in the hell's happening. Of course, because it's these two random guys, it would make no sense whatsoever. But we see that there's like this main character that she's like this lady with like a katana, and she's in all these different environments. I guess the best way to explain it is if you played the No More Heroes, Travis Strikes Again, the Switch game. If you played that, where Travis is inside all of these like different video games, it kind of looks like kind of like that, because it's like a 2.5 side-scrolling thing, and it kind of reminds me, some of the environments, the way they look, it kind of reminds me of a little bit of that. Specifically the game called Coffee and Donuts from that, where it was kind of like a platformer, and there was definitely like some doors you would have to travel through and stuff. It kind of looks like that mixed with, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like, it feels like a mix of stuff I've seen before. It kind of reminds me of the Travis Strikes Again. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Swery65's, The Missing. Like it reminds me of a few things like that. It just feels like a mishmash of stuff I've seen before. But it's just like this lady with a katana, and she's like in all these environments. And basically it looks like, since it says it's a parody of action films and slashers and stuff, it looks like basically it's making fun of different movies. Like there's one where she's fighting a giant shark. I think it's supposed to be like, a parody of Jaws, for instance. There's one where she's fighting this like slasher guy that kind of looks like Jason from, Friday the 13th. So I'm not really sure what's happening. And that says how there's something about like a death loop, and that different versions of you will help you out or something like that. So I don't know what the hell's happening. The point is, it's like a 2.5D slasher where it looks like each of the levels will have to do with a different movie and like making fun of it.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble explaining it. You saw the trailer. I show it to you. It's kind of hard to explain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially since it's just an announcement trailer, so we don't really know what's happening. And not only that, but these guys, they make some weird-ass games. Mm-hmm. So trying to just explain it to like a normal person is already hard. But the best way to explain it is that, it's going to be a thing where you have a katana, you're hacking and slashing, through the environments, you're fighting all these different big old bosses, and it looks like each level will be based on some sort of a famous movie, and they'll be making fun of it. So I don't know how that's going to work out. I don't know what the death loop part has to do with it. I don't know how the different versions of you are going to help you. I don't know, what the main character's about, or there's a lot of things we don't know. But the point is, it looks interesting. I've enjoyed these guys' games in the past, so I'm excited to see this collaboration, and I'm excited to just see what the hell this is about, because it just looks so weird. I'm kind of struggling to put it into words, but if you read the article, the way it explains it, and if you see the trailer for yourself, you'll see what I'm talking about, that it looks weird, but it looks interesting, and I want to know more. So I'm excited that they finally like officially announced it, and that supposedly it comes out next year. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, guys. It's hard to put into words. Like I said, Legend John saw a trailer. He knows what I'm talking about. It just looks really trippy. But like I said, it looks interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I am intrigued and I look forward to it. And hopefully our audience, hopefully they are interested
And then
and
check it
willing to
out.
check it out as well. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
perfect. Alrighty, and finally, our last news story, and this is a pretty exciting one, or at least I hope it's exciting. We'll see how this goes, because it sounds like a good thing. But as the title of the article states, it says, Bill Willingham declares Fables is public domain. What will DC do now? So, basically what this is referring to is that there's this guy named Bill Willingham that created a graphic novel series called Fables. And Fables is this series that basically takes like fairy tales and all sorts of stuff, in that that like genre, I guess you'd call it,
Yeah.
and it kind of reworks them to put them in a more modern setting. So people might be familiar with a example of this is The Wolf Among Us. It's a
Mhm.
game by Telltale that I actually played on the channel with Terrific. Very, very interesting series. And basically The Wolf Among Us is based on the Fables, series. And, like in the game, for instance, it kind of reworks all of these fairy tale characters into a more contemporary setting. So the Big Bad Wolf, for instance, these days he goes by Bigby, and he has like a human form, and he's the sheriff of Fabletown, which is this little community that all of like the fairy tale people live in New York. And he's the sheriff. So Big Bad Wolf, he's in human form, he's the sheriff. And then Snow White, for instance, she is like the assistant to like the mayor or whatever in the game. And so, she's like a, government lady. And then Ichabod Crane, for instance, he's the one who was like in charge. I think he like was the mayor, for instance. And then, Toad from Wind in the Willows or whatever. He's like this, I think, single dad, and not really shows his wife. He's this, single dad that, he, lives in some apartment. And he's always getting in trouble because he's not following the rules, for instance. And then, one of the three little pigs, for instance, the Big Bad Wolf owes him from their time when they used to like, be in the fairy tale land. So he's crashing in Bigby's apartment, for instance. So all these characters that are from fairy tales, they're reworked so they're like in a more urban setting. And it's really interesting because it's all about, their everyday life in this new setting, that they had to leave like their hometown behind because something went down and some of them died or whatever. And so they're like in hiding among humans in this like little, area in New York. And so it's really interesting to just see how they like rework all of these fairy tale characters so they're more modern. And so that's like, how do they deal with city life? And like, what do they do now? Like I said, like Bigby, he's the sheriff. Snow White is like the assistant mayor. I'm trying to think of someone else that had like a really interesting job. For instance, the Jersey Devil, that's, kind of like a mythical creature. He actually runs a pawn shop, for instance. And, like when they mention like the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker, Johannes the butcher runs a butcher shop, stuff like that. It's really interesting to see all these people doing different things, whether it's like normal or illegal. Some people work on like the illegal side of things, and that's like where they come into like trouble with Bigby. And the whole point is this guy created a really interesting graphic novel based on these characters in a modern setting. So I know I kind of, rant a little bit there. And the point is that he published them under DC because Vertigo, which is like the little, you can almost call it like almost like their like indie label, it's part of DC. Same thing with, I think, Dark Horse, I think also belongs to DC. I might be wrong about that. But that's why you might see stuff like Hellboy, for instance, even though he's not officially DC, he showed up in Injustice, for instance, because it's a part of DC. And yeah, so basically this guy, he created this thing, he was publishing it to DC, and after a bunch of trouble with DC not paying him, and there was like a lot of trouble with like the licensing and all sorts of stuff. You can read the article. I'm not going to get too into it. But the point is, he wasn't too happy with how things were running. He made Fables public domain. And public domain means that once it's out there, anybody can use it however they want, which is pretty interesting. And yeah, basically this guy, like I said, I'm not going to go too into it. I think it's one of those things where if you read the article, it really answers the questions better and all that good stuff. But basically, he's like, yeah, I was having issues with DC, and I have this philosophy where I want things to be like more free, and he thinks that copyright and all that stuff and trademark is like a whole mess. So even though he won't be able to really make money off of Fables without, DC, he's still going to have to go through them. And even though DC still owes him a bunch of money, so there's like this whole feud that they have going on that he says, that might last forever. I don't know what's going to happen there. He's like, luckily, you, the fans, don't have to worry about it. For you guys, it's public domain. You can do whatever you want with it. You can make, your video games, your stories, your movies, your animations, your merchandise, whatever. I'm basically just putting it out there. So he's like, basically, even though me and DC have our issues and we're probably going to be like having trouble for like who knows how long, this is the one line I will read from the article I thought was really good. He says, however, for you, the new 100% of owner, however, you, the new 100% owner of Fables, never signed such agreements. So he's talking about all the agreements that him and, DC are stuck with. He says, for better or worse, DC and I are still locked together in this unhappy marriage, perhaps for all time. But you aren't. So basically he's saying that he knows that him and DC are going to be like stuck in legal crap maybe for like the rest of his life, because the dude's like almost 70 now. But he doesn't care. He made it free for the audience. He made it free for the fans. And like I said, that's pretty exciting, because I wonder what people will do with these characters now that they're out there, because there's definitely a lot out there. Like, do you know how people use fairy tales to this day to make all sorts of interesting like stuff? The Fables characters are kind of like that, where like there's so much there, and it's really cool. Imagine being able to use these characters for, cartoons, movies, books, toys, etc. So it'll be really interesting to see what people do with it, because that's out there now. He made it free for everybody. So I really would like to see what's going to happen. Like I was already excited because they're supposed to make that Wolf Among Us, part 2. But now that's even more free. That's not just tied to like only one person can like make something out of it. I wonder what other kind of projects we'll see, So that's pretty cool. Like hopefully he's right, and hopefully it is out there for everybody, and hopefully we get to see some cool stuff in the near future, So like I said, it's out there. The article will be linked in the description below, where he kind of explains everything and what troubles he had and all that good stuff. But hopefully this leads to some good stuff, and hopefully it leads to some interesting projects and stuff in the future. So I'm excited. I'm a big fan of the Fables thing. I'm a big fan of the Wolf Among Us, and it'll be interesting, like I said, to see what this leads to in the future. So that's why I want to share that. So there you go.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, and that's going to be it for the news. These are the 3 stories that really caught my attention. The 3 that I think hopefully they really relate to the audience, because it's stuff that we've basically covered before on the channel in one way or another. Sonic, we did a playthrough of. The whole Swery 65 and Suda 51, mentioned them on the channel a bunch of times, played the, No More Heroes games. And then this last one ties to Wolf Among Us, so that's pretty cool. And speaking of which, that's what's going to be my segue into the topic of the week. But since we're talking about Fables, and we're talking about how it's public domain now, And since I did name drop The Wolf Among Us a couple of times, for the topic of the week, it's going to be very brief. But once again, I would say that I recommend that people go check out The Wolf Among Us by Telltale. I think it is a really fun game. I think it has really great story. And I think it's a good time to check it out since there's supposed to be that second game coming out supposedly next year. So that's my recommendation. Yeah. So just to give a quick recap of The Wolf Among Us, it's a game that, like I said, I played on the channel. Full LP is up. If you guys want to check it out, I did it with Terrific, and he really liked the story. He really enjoyed it. We had a really fun time with it. And basically, I think is one of Telltale's best games where, as I said, it follows the characters from Fables. And it's kind of like a little spin-off of it where, yeah, basically you have all these characters that are based on fairy tales, and they're in an urban environment. And the game basically follows Bigby Wolf, who is the sheriff, and he is dealing with a series of murders in Fabletown. And so in the game, it's your job in typical Telltale fashion that you need to investigate. And it does it by you check out clues and you talk to people and you make choices and like that sort of thing. And it's just really well done because it is a detective game. It's kind of in that noir style. And it's just really interesting where it's like, yeah, there's this murder and there's all this stuff happening. And as you investigate, you kind of start to unlock more of the story and you kind of see more of like the conspiracy that's happening in Fabletown. And it's just really well done. It's like a really good game, really good story. The gameplay is really well done for being a Telltale game. Like the way you investigate stuff and put clues together and the way you talk to people and there's different choices to make. So, you know how in Telltale games, there's always choices where like, you do this or you do that and it changes stuff in like later chapters or whatever, later episodes or whatever. And basically it does that here. Yeah. Where like you make choices and you talk to different people and it sometimes locks you out of different things. So that makes it interesting because that gives us some replayability too.
That does do that. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. So, like, for instance, it might say, do you want to go after like this guy to get a lead, or do you want to go after this other guy to get a lead? And then depending on who you choose, it might change the story where like, oh, you missed out on this information, or you missed out on that information, and all sorts of little branching paths like that make it really interesting. And like I'm telling you, it has a really good story, really good characters, really good voice acting. The visuals are really good because it's supposed to be like this, like I said, noir style, which is really cool. And yeah, just the fact that it's based on this Fables series, I think they did a really good job of adapting it into like a video game or whatever. So it's pretty good. So like I said, you can check that out for yourself. These days, I'm not really too sure what you can play it on. I know that before they released on all sorts of stuff, right? I think the last generation they really released it on was like the PS4 / like Xbox generation, I think. But it's also, I think like on PC and all that good stuff. So tracking it down might be a bit of work, especially these days, because, after Telltale went out of business, they stopped really porting those games. So you would have to go look for it. But I still think it should be pretty easy to track down. And like I said, me and Terrific did do an LP of it. So if you check out our LP, I think that's a lot of fun. We put a lot of work into that. I think that, it's a really good time. I think you'll enjoy it if you go check that out. But yeah, that's basically my recommendation for the week. That's my topic that I think you guys should check out, The Wolf Among Us, because it's really well done. It's a lot of fun. And like I said, fingers crossed that hopefully there's going to be that Wolf Among Us Part 2 next year. Like they've said a few times it's supposed to come out. It's gotten pushed back a bit, but fingers crossed it's still happening. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty, guys, and that is it. That is another podcast in the bag. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully, you guys had some fun listening to our stuff, listening to the news stories, all that good stuff. And yeah, like I said, next week I will try to be back, maybe with the anime roundup. If not next week, then the week after that. But that anime roundup should come pretty soon. And yeah, the next anime season's coming pretty soon as well. So pretty exciting stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I hope that we are able to come back next week. You know, we'll definitely try our best.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's basically it. I just hope that you guys enjoyed the podcast. Hopefully you guys had a good time listening to it. And we will try to be back next week. Until then, have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.